Welcome to One-on-One. I'm your host, Lee Adams, and today we bring you a team, a high school team, a coach, and some players that did something very special this year. The Mount Lebanon High School boys varsity basketball team won the WPL championship at the Peterson Center. So they made some history, so we invited them to come in and share an hour with us and talk about the year that they had. And our first guest is the head coach of that team, and he's been there for, I think, 18 years, Coach Joe David. Coach, great to have you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
We've had you here many times in the past, and I've always enjoyed it. So
it's nice to be back.
Yeah, it's great to see you again. Mm-hmm. So, you started, 18 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, as we all do, we evolve in the things that we do. How do you think you've changed in some ways from right at the beginning to now?
Well, I think I change. I think as a coach, you continuously evolve and you change. And I think that whether it's disciplining the team, the individual, handling the individuals, I think that over the course of the years, you become better at that and identifying which kids need pat on the back, which kids need kicked in the can, how to prepare a team, whether it's a big game or a championship game or things of that nature. I think that you can go back on experiences to help you out.
I think I remember having a conversation with you, and I think we were in the North Gym, of the old North Gym at the high school, and it was one of your first years, and you made the playoffs. And I don't think they had a lot of success in the playoffs before you got here. Mm-hmm. And I asked you, I said, so what's your approach, Coach? And you said, this is a whole different season. And right. So how do you talk about the playoffs versus the regular season?
Well, I think the players know that over the years of me coaching them, that I treat those playoffs differently, that everything's heightened, everything's different. You can't come to practice the same way. You can't bring the same intensity every day. It's a heightened response, and I think they need to know that. And I remember very distinctly my first year watching them practice, getting ready for the playoffs, and stopping practice and saying, now I know why you guys have been successful, because you think you're going to do the same thing and get different results. And we have to do different things. We have to step it up a bit. And so I try to impose that upon them, and they did a great job of responding and working hard.
Do you still get the same gratification now that you did when you started coaching?
I can't remember back then.
Yeah.
It's been so long. But I know this year was extremely gratifying. Last year was very gratifying. I still enjoy it. I wouldn't do it if I didn't enjoy it. I think that I'll continue to do it as long as I have fun and enjoy it and have a good time and get a lot of. I get more from it, I think, than the players do. I think that they give me more than I give them. So it's.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I just think the feelings I get watching them grow up, watching them get better, watching them achieve success, that's extremely gratifying. And so that's why I feel I get more out of it than they do. I think they're young and they'll go through those experiences. It won't hit them as far as what they've experienced and why they've experienced it. I don't think probably until they're parents themselves. And that's kind of when we all start reflecting back on, I have this young person in front of me now. How am I going to raise them? What am I going to say to them? I think that's when you start looking back on your teachers and your coaches and your parents more than anybody.
Definitely. There's no doubt about it. Now, this is the team that didn't have big size. It didn't have kids that were off the charts athletically, but good athletes. So what made this team so special? Because there were times you're playing the WPL championship, Butler's bigger than you. They have a 6'6" point guard. You don't have that. Mm-hmm. So what made this team special to do what they did?
I think the fact that they played together, they worked hard together, they were very unselfish. They didn't care about their name versus the name on the front of their chest was where they played for. On any given night, a bunch of our guys could have been the leading scorer, and there wasn't anybody in the locker room pouting about how many points they're averaging or how many minutes they played. I think everybody was in it for the right reason, and that was to win basketball games and to become a better basketball team each and every day, each and every week.
Michael Palmer, talking to him in a previous show, he said one of the things you taught them is that you're entitled to nothing, you have to earn everything. Where does that come from?
Well, that's a quote I've used on the first day of practice every year since I've been coaching. It's a different era. I mean, growing up is a different era, and I think that sometimes they don't understand how to go out and get something versus things that are given to them. And we're in communities where, Mount Lebanon has its different social classes and things of that nature, more so than other municipalities. But I think sometimes it's easy for them, and they're given things versus earning it. And so I try to relate that to them. Somebody gives you $1 million, it feels a certain way. You go out and earn that $1 million, that feels a whole other way. And the sense of satisfaction, gratification of the earning that is different. And just try to impose that upon them.
I think you're exactly right. I mean, growing up, with not a lot of money, you had to go get what you wanted to get. But now in the South Hills and many of the areas, like, people are doing well, and these kids have a lot of stuff that they like, and they didn't really earn those things. So you're speaking to that, and you're trying to change that dynamic, I guess, with your team.
Yeah, I think, the old saying is, some of these kids, they were born on third base and think they hit a triple, okay? They didn't, so they didn't earn that. They have to earn it, and they have to work for it. And I think once they see that, then that sets them up for the rest of their lives. Because, as you know and I know, as you get out there, you're going to have to work. You want a promotion, you're going to have to work. You want a job, you're going to have to work. And your marriage, right? You want to have a great marriage, you got to work at it. You want to be a better parent, you have to work at it. And so I think the big picture is really, I see the big picture and try to use basketball to show them that.
Well, I think that's so valuable. Now, playing high school basketball, you played high school and college basketball. One of the areas that I always think about is the fine line between holding your kids accountable for what they do, but also making sure they still have their confidence. So how do you balance that as a coach?
That's difficult, but I think that you try to find them doing good things and make sure they know that you believe in them. Make sure that they know that everything you say, everything you do, every motion you make towards them is because you want them to become a better basketball player. And it's nothing personal. You love them all, but they all have to be treated differently. But I think that players of mine, I want them to know that everything I do, everything I say is because they want me to be the best coach I can possibly be to help them out. And if I'm saying anything or getting on them, it's because I want them to be a very good basketball player. You have to be careful. Nobody pressed more than me as a college basketball player. I mean, I've been there. And I've told them the stories. I always point to them because some of them are sitting over here. But I remember shooting in a Big East game on national TV, packed house, and just saying to myself, just hit the rim. Like just hit the rim. That's how much pressure I was under. And so when you have those experiences, and you know what you want your coach to say, and you know how you want your coach to act, then you try to become that person as a coach. So I'll take a kid out and yell at them for not shooting more than for shooting. And so I'll say to a kid like a Blaine or Jake, you pass that shot up again, come on, you're out. And I think that gives them confidence. Hey, coach wants me to shoot the basketball, so you try to instill it that way.
Yeah. Well, did you have coaches like that? I mean,
no, my coaches were, I hate to talk about my coaches, they passed away.
Well, but they were different. Passed away. Different time.
Yeah, but you miss a shot, you come out.
Right.
And some coaches today still coach that way. You miss a shot, you're out. Miss a shot, you're out. Well, as a shooter, the next one's always going in. I may get 6, 7 shots in a row. I may miss my first 3, but as a shooter, if you put the body of work in, that next shot's going in. So I think you'll hear that more than anything. You can ask those guys, the players, but I think you'll hear that more than anything on our team is, keep shooting. Don't worry about it. Next shot, next play, move along. And I think that I hear that from their teammates more than anything. And that's just part of our culture.
Yeah, and I'm not used to that culture because I played for a guy that you miss something, you're out of the game.
Yeah.
And so it was just a hard way to develop confidence because you're not going to make all those shots. And I was talking to Sean Loughran, and we're talking about like you're in the warm-ups and you're shooting and you're not hitting anything. But then you get in a game and you hit your first shot. I mean, what does that do? He's like, it builds confidence. And that's what he did at the Peterson Center. He comes in, he hits the first couple shots, his confidence goes boom. I mean, you get that.
Right.
You get that. You've been there.
Yeah.
But you were coached different.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're flipping the script on how you're coaching these guys.
Yeah, I talked to Sean yesterday about, and these guys will remember, we wanted to play against their zone. We wanted to kick it out to Sean in the corner. And so it was halftime. He's warming up, and he missed like 3 or 4 from the corner. So literally we were in our huddle, and I said, Sean, no, keep shooting it. And he missed maybe 5 or 6 more in a row, and then he finally hit one. But I ran the play for him to start the second half, and he missed it. Now, I told him I probably wasn't the smartest coach in the world at that point. I should have went with something else. But I still was confident, even after that he was going to knock that shot down in the game.
I think it has long-lasting effects, though. I remember Evan Pierce, when you guys were doing back years ago, and he was a shooter, and he told me that just forget about it. If you miss this shot, forget about it.
You can learn. Yeah, you remember the ones you make. You forget the ones you miss. You can learn from the ones you miss, but beyond that, you have to have a very, very short memory as a shooter.
Yeah. So you have a staff that's very unique. I mean, first of all, you guys are like the best dressed staff in the whole WPIL. We'll start there. But secondly, you have a large staff, and I think some of them are volunteers. Mm-hmm. And they've been with you for years and years and years. So that just doesn't happen. I mean, I see other staffs that are much smaller and there's turnover. So from your perspective, I should ask them, but from your perspective, why do you think your staff has been with you so long and are as loyal as they are to you and your boys? I mean, what do you think keeps bringing them back?
I don't know. I can't shake them. I've been trying to shake them. I can't shake them. No, they're great guys. They're great people. And you start with Tyler Bloomling, who is the leading scorer in Mount Lebanon history. He's there every day. He's like a big brother to these guys, and he's working hard every day and playing, and he's extremely valuable to what we do. He's my assistant, and Matt Gold. And Matt's been a wonderful addition for the past 4 years. Bleeds blue and gold. Mount Lebanon, Blue Devils bleeds it. Loves the community. He knows everybody more than I do, but also a great basketball mind. Then you have George Elias, who's been with me as a volunteer coach for, I think, 15 of my 18 years, and Bill Garvey, again, 15 of my 18 years, that are volunteer guys. I don't see them as much in the summertime as I'd like, but they come around in October, November, and they know what I do, how I do it. They know the culture of what we've tried to build here over the past 2 decades, and that's extremely valuable. And you throw in a kid like a Jordan Albert, who can't get to a lot of the practices a whole lot, but he's there doing scouting and sending me scouting reports on teams that people don't see. That's extremely valuable. So I'm very fortunate, and really a lot of the guys on my staff have gone on to other coaching opportunities. I don't know if the guys I have right now are looking for that, and so that may mean that we may be around for quite some time.
But I mean, I think that reflects on you, Joe, because they're not just coming for nothing. There's something in it for them. And I mean, what's your take on why you think they keep coming back?
Well, I think you have to enjoy it. You have to love it. You have to also believe in and love the people that you work with. And I love them. They're great people. I'd do anything in the world for any of them. And hopefully that's reciprocated. And I think once everybody knows we're on the same page of what we're trying to build and trying to do, and whether it's, we've had years we weren't as successful as others, but they've been just as satisfying sometimes to get a team that you think doesn't have very much into the playoffs. Just sometimes that is great. But I've been very fortunate to have a wonderful staff that's been very dedicated to these young men.
Yeah, that's great. So talk about the circumstances where you have a high school basketball game to coach and your son is at the University of Kentucky and it's senior day. So what was that like for you, that decision process?
It wasn't really a big decision. I think that once the Kentucky schedule came out, I knew that I never told these guys, but I knew that the senior day was the first day of the state playoffs. It was going to be a Saturday. So I knew I wouldn't make that game. I did not know if we were going to get into the state championship or not, though, so we had to get there first. But once we got there, I had to be there for Johnny. It was a great, great day for him, and I wouldn't have missed it for the world. So I had to try to figure out a way where I could continue to contribute. Now, I coached these guys all the way through the day before, so I felt very comfortable they'd know what's going on. I think Coach Wooden would always say, if you've done your job right, you could probably sit in the seat and watch. And I kind of told them that, let them take a little more ownership of that game, and then came up with the idea of me coaching that game remotely and using an iPad and a computer and FaceTime and talking to Jordan Albert on the bench and relaying a message and play calls to Tyler throughout the game. And it worked out real well.
Well, I mean, that was a 5th seed, I think, coming out of the Harrisburg area, and they were no cupcake by any stretch of the imagination. They had talent on that team.
Yeah, their guard was real good. The other kid could shoot. We scouted them pretty well, but I felt very confident. I think that they felt very confident that that was going to be a win for us. We kind of handled the game the way we wanted to handle the game, and then they made a bit of a run that closed it down there in the third quarter, and we made a couple of plays to open it back up again. It was hard for them. I mean, keep in mind, those guys traveled, 240 miles to come to Peters Township and then turn around and go home. So I kind of felt bad there, but then I look back at the years that we had to do that and don't feel as bad.
Yeah, right. So you've coached a certain style for many years because of the type of players you've had. But 2 years ago, you decided to change everything. And so what was behind that decision-making process? How did you go about it, and how did you go about choosing the way you play now?
Well, it all started, quite honestly, with Antonio Garofoli. You know, I was trying to figure out a way, and Antonio's a small little kid, can shoot the heck out of the basketball, and I was always trying to figure out a way that, and Sean Loughran, you know, these are two kids who can shoot the ball very well, weren't great at getting their own shots. So I was constantly trying to find ways and to get those guys open. And so I started thinking that one of the best ways may be just to open this thing up, and where we're pressing and now if there's a turnover, they can't find Antonio. They can't find where Sean is. If I walked the ball up the court and they put a guy in their face and face guarded him, we were going to have some trouble. So it just all came one day. I was sitting on a plane coming from Chicago, and I started writing down all the things that I felt would bother a team. And it gets a little more complicated than that. And so we put a name on it, and I started to design drills that were part of what we were trying to do, and committed to it. And so far, it's really, really paid off for us.
I'll say.
It's paid off for us. So, I thought we could have easily been in the championship last year, pending a few, shots or a free throw or a turnover here and there. We lost in overtime to Penn Hills, and to get there this year. And I thought, Kennedy Catholic had a fantastic team, but we get by them. We have a chance to win a state championship.
Yeah.
And I think that the reason I say that is because of the style that we play and the things that we do, nobody else does the way we do it. And until you see it and experience it, it's hard to prepare for.
Yeah. No, I think it's a testament to your coaching, because I don't think a lot of people have the maybe capability of changing the whole thing by themselves. And you did it. I think you just love basketball.
Yeah, I think I just enjoy trying to take a team and putting them in a position that they can be successful. What can I do to make them the best possible team they can possibly become, and looking at what ingredients you have and how to utilize those ingredients to create the best dish, that's out there. And right now, it's been a really good match for us. If for some reason, all of a sudden, I'm going to inherit 6'9", 6'8", 6'8", maybe we may change back a little bit. But right now, we don't have that.
We're not seeing that, yeah.
Yeah.
So I know you always think the Upper St. Clair rivalry is special for you and your kids, and it just has been for so many years. Now, they came into your gym and played extremely well and beat you up pretty good, like we're not used to seeing. Now, do you think that game had some long-term value to you?
No, that was the greatest thing that could have happened to us.
Why do you say that?
I think we're playing pretty well, but I think that sometimes when you get punched in the mouth like that, I came to practice that next day and guys were dialed in, guys were glued in, that guys were listening. I have a saying all the time. I always say, winning causes inattention to detail. And sometimes when you're winning, you let the guy didn't box this guy out in practice, you let that go. But we made a commitment that day that we're getting better and we're not letting anything slide in any way for every single drill. And I give those guys credit. They bought into it. They worked extremely hard. They did numerous push-ups for missing a box out, or what I call a spray on offense. And I told them after that game, I said, listen, I was part of the team that beat Villanova by 20-some points the last game of the year at the Fieldhouse. That same Villanova team went on to win the national championship. And I really felt that, and you can ask my assistant coaches and them, I may have told them, I'm not sure, but I really felt that that was exactly what we needed. I wasn't upset in any way. I felt that the magnitude of that game, being it sold out, played into all that, and I felt that that was really the impetus, if you will, of our championship.
Yeah, it's great to turn that into a positive, and the run that you made, and I mean, the win down at the Peterson Center, pretty satisfying for you, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was great.
A lot of fun.
Well, I always enjoy having you come in.
I always love coming. It's a lot of time, a lot of good times in the past, and
yeah,
hopefully we'll get a chance to do this again in the future.
Do this again in the future. Well, thanks for coming, and best wishes to you.
Thank you.
Also joining us are two junior guards that played for the Mount Lebanon High School WPL Championship boys varsity basketball team. The first guest is Jake Hoffman. It's great to have you here.
Yep.
And our second guest with him, next to him, is Andy Sapp. Andy, it's nice to have you.
Thank you.
So, Jake, what kind of pressure did you feel at any point during this season?
I feel like most of the pressure came like towards the end of the season during our playoff run. So that's when I felt like I really had to step up, especially in the Whitfield Championship game.
Yeah. And, Andy, you played a little different role on the team. So what was the kind of pressure that you felt?
Well, I was just in there to get plays, like make plays, get rebounds. And, my pressure was just to try to help out the team,
And be ready.
Yeah,
when you got called.
Yeah.
The player rotation only goes so far.
Yeah.
But you were in that player rotation.
Yeah.
And so, when you get your opportunity, you're trying to make the best of it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So, Jake, let's just talk about this year. Your team had a lot of success. Why do you think that you did what you did?
Well, this is one of the closest groups we've ever had. So starting from like summers and open gyms, we just grew really close, and it's just a lot better to play with like close group of guys because you just have a lot of chemistry.
Yeah. Andy, what's your thoughts on that?
I feel the same way. We were closer this year than any year I've experienced, and that helps so much being close with the guys because they have your back and stuff like that. So
I guess those seniors, they all played together like going up through travel, but you guys as juniors, it was a little different. You played on different teams, right?
Yeah.
So you guys had to mesh with them.
Yeah.
And so, they're a little older than you, so how do they handle you guys as an underclass?
Well, they're just like a really accepting group, like really nice guys. So they knew how to like incorporate us in everything, make us feel a part of the team.
Yeah. What was your feeling about that, Andy?
Yeah, same thing. I knew Will Elin, we live right next to each other. So I always knew him growing up, and he was really accepting of me and being on the team. It was just nice to have him.
Yeah, because I remember playing back then, and there's upperclassmen, and how they handle you, it makes a difference in some ways. And so that's really important. So you think the way they kind of handled you guys was part of the reason why you had the success you did?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. So are you even thinking about the future, like college-wise or anything at this point?
I've always had thoughts of playing in college, just seeing what coaches are interested in, just seeing how the summer goes. So.
Yeah, yeah. And how about you, Andy? What, you know, you're going to start to think about college.
Yeah.
So what's your in your mind?
Well, I mean, I just have fun playing basketball more. Probably not going to go to college for it, but I mean, I love the sport, so.
So what do you think about college, though? Is there any kind of thoughts on maybe what direction you want to go in that respect?
Not really. I haven't put too much thought into it. Probably a bigger school would be my guess.
Yeah, I got you. I think Hayden was talking about Ohio State versus Bucknell. Right. And that's two massively different colleges, you know, massively different. So talk about memories. Like you know, you've been playing sports your whole lives pretty much. So what are some of the memories that you guys have that really stand out to you?
Well, I feel like for my basketball memories, it all starts out by winning those travel basketball tournaments. So those are always great, and then that ends up working out in like junior season winning the WPIAL championships. So.
Yeah, yeah. How about you, Andy?
Yeah, I just remember winning the 8th grade travel championship in Trinity, and that was the first championship I've ever won, and that was just such a great feeling. So,
so then you move on to the WPIAL. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. I was there, and I thought it was a really satisfying win. Did you feel that way, Jake? And why do you think it was satisfying for you?
Well, honestly, I feel like Ethan Morton was one of the guys who played up against. He got all the hype, so like I kind of felt like we were an underdog at some point because people were saying like they have something to prove because we beat them by like 26 earlier on. So it just felt really satisfying proving people wrong.
Yeah, I think you guys played probably one of your best games of the season when they came into Mount Lebanon, and they were undefeated. I think they were number one. And I think you guys couldn't have played any better that night. And I thought to myself, there's no way this is going to be the same as it was the last time. And they were on a roll, and that kid was scoring a ton of points. So what was the game plan on how to stop him?
Well, one of our coaches, Tyler Bloomlane, he's obviously a fantastic player. So in practice, we kind of simulate him as Ethan Morton. So our goal is just to get up in his face and make him as uncomfortable as he can be. So
yeah, did you get called to guard him some in that game, or?
Well, how our defense works, it's really whoever ends up on him, and I feel like I was just around him the most, so I stuck on him.
So what I noticed was that he got to the rim a little bit in the first half, but it was really hard for him to get there in the second half. Like, what do you think you guys did to make it harder?
Well, I think it's really hard to drive to the hoop on like a double team, so we kind of forced him to make plays and pass it to the other guys.
Yeah, because when he got to the rim, you had nobody that size that could deal with him. And so he's up on the glass, and you're not there. Most of the guys on this team aren't there, and he's going to have some success finishing. I think one of the things you did was you pushed him to his left, and he didn't finish everything, but he got there. Mm-hmm. And I think that was one of the keys to the game. It really was. So Andy, what did it mean to you to be part of this team?
Well, it means everything, you know, to win a WPIAL championship and be a part of that. It was really special. And just like these guys, they're so great. They're great guys, so it just means a lot to me.
Does Coach David talk about Andy, you know, putting up a banner? Does he talk about that?
Yeah, he does. When we got close to the WPIAL championship, we'd look up at the banner and he says he can see 2019 glowing. And I mean, that gave us a lot of motivation.
Yeah, yeah. I think he really likes putting up banners.
Yeah.
But what coach doesn't, you know?
Yeah.
Or player, really. So music-wise, what's your music taste?
My go-to is country, but before a game, it's always rap. That's how
Interesting. So how about like a pregame? What would get you if they were playing like a pregame track while you're doing layups? What would get you pumped up a little bit?
Usually, I kind of like our plays. We usually put up like the most popular rap songs, I guess. But I don't mind some old school either.
Where did you get your old school taste?
My dad.
Really?
Yeah.
What kind of music was he listening to?
He's a big AC/DC fan.
Is he?
Yeah.
Oh, that'll get you going.
Yeah.
I mean, Thunderstruck. That'll get you going.
Mm-hmm.
How about you, Andy? What do you like music-wise?
I'm also a big country fan, Old Dominion, the band. But as well, my mom listened to the Beatles a lot, so I kind of grew up listening to them, and I like them a lot too.
So good.
Yeah.
So good. They just changed everything.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, you're a junior in high school. You've had a lot of people you've run across. So who do you admire and why, Jake?
I would say just my family in general, mostly my dad. He's just always been there for me, and he's always the first guy to tell me I had a good game, no matter what. So.
Yeah. How about if you didn't have a good game?
He still gives me some pointers, but he's never been too harsh on me, which I appreciate.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. I mean, it's not like you're not trying.
Yeah.
You're trying real hard, and you're not going to have good games all the time. So how about you, Andy? Who do you admire?
Probably most of all my grandpa. I mean, he's just a great man, and he kind of grew up poor, and now he's like a wealthy man actually. So, and just for him to go through that struggle and him tell me about that, I really admire him a lot.
Yeah. I mean, we were talking to Coach David about that, and you know, people and kids in Mount Lebanon generally aren't poor. So that you don't have to deal with that, but there are people that grow up poor. You're talking to one right now, and you know it's not a terrible thing, because once you grow up that way, whenever you achieve something, you really appreciate it. I guess that's what you're saying about your grandfather.
Yeah.
So you think he's great just because where he came from and where he is and the stories he tells you?
Yeah, exactly. And also, he's just a stand-up guy. He acts really well, you know. I don't know. It's just, yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Well, he just holds, I can't think of the word exactly, but like, he's very put together, you know. He's humble.
He has his life in order.
Yeah, he has his life in order. He's humble. And I don't know, he's just taught me a lot of things and that I used to.
He doesn't brag.
No, he does not.
So he handles success well.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's interesting. So influences, like you've had coaches and parents, and you know, who's influenced you, Jake?
Well, I also say my grandpa, because he's been every single one of my games. He's 88 years old, I think now, so I just really admire that as well, that he was able to do that.
He comes to all the games.
Yeah.
At 88.
Mm-hmm.
That's terrific. That's terrific. And who's, you know, besides your grandpa, Andy, like who's been influence on who you are today?
Probably my dad, I think. I mean, he's always there for me whenever we lose or we win, and sometimes I think he takes the losses harder than I do. And I don't know, yeah, probably my dad.
Interesting. So you've had a lot of teachers over the years. So who stands out as someone that you really liked and why, Jake?
As in school or?
School.
I would say my English teacher last year, because she was really close with all my siblings, so I kind of just grew into that, and just really great person.
So you connected with that,
Yeah.
with her. And how about you, Andy?
Probably this year, my environmental geoscience teacher, because, you know, he cares about the environment a lot, and he's very passionate about it, and so seeing that is kind of, you know, seeing someone that passionate about their job, I think that's pretty cool.
So important.
Yeah.
I mean, we have to have clean water and clean air.
Exactly.
Or we're going to be in big trouble.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm with him, and I
Yeah.
think it's great that he's made that kind of impact. So now, you know, you guys are going to be seniors, so how are you going to handle that role? Now you're going to be at the top of the food chain, and so how do you see yourself handling that, Jake?
Well, I think we're really lucky to see like the past group of seniors, because now we know how to lead a team, and I feel like the most important thing is to make the underclassmen feel like welcome, so they know that they can play with us.
Absolutely, it's such a big deal. How about you, Andy?
Yeah, same thing. Just try to be a family, you know, and yeah, make the freshmen feel welcome. And I thought when I was a freshman, I had the chance to play JV or freshman. And so I took the chance to play JV, and I think that's helped me. And so I would give that advice to any freshman coming in.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Well, I want to congratulate you both on winning a WPL championship and making history at Mount Lebanon High School.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
I bet you got a lot of good vibes after that.
Exactly.
Yes.
Well, congratulations on that. But you got a whole life ahead of you. So my best wishes are with both of you. Thank you.
Thank you very
for
much.
joining us today.
Thank you.
And our final guest of the show here is a junior guard, point guard for the Mount Lebanon High School WPL Championship basketball team. Blaine Gartley. Blaine, it's great to have you
Thank you
here.
for having me.
Now, Blaine, basketball seems to be kind of important to you.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say so?
Absolutely, yeah.
Why?
I just grew up with it. I mean, I eat, sleep, everything basketball. I mean, if I don't, every day of my life involves basketball. All my relationships involve basketball. Anyone who I know, anyone I'm close with has connection to basketball. I think it's just part of my life now.
Well, my daughter played for your mother in lacrosse, and they won championships.
Yeah, yeah.
And I remember you running around the stands as a little Blaine. And so I was wondering if you were going to play sports, and you do. And why did you just, I mean, you grew up around that lacrosse world, and why do you think you went to basketball?
Well, my stepdad now, he's on the coaching staff, Matt Gould. He came into my life when I was 2 years old, and he's just totally impacted my life for the better. He put a basketball in my hand, and it's just, that's a wrap. It's been like that since.
It's a wrap. It's all over. Like, your dad is your stepdad.
Yeah.
He's very passionate about basketball.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he cares just as much as I do. He cares more than the next person. It's just unbelievable.
He does. And you know, Coach David talked about him. And what do you think he brings? I guess you played for him in some years, you know, and
Yeah.
you see him coaching. And so what do you think he brings to the team?
In practices, you know, it's not easy. Take example, beating USC on a Tuesday night. We'll wait to come into practice on a Wednesday. We're feeling hot. You know, he's a guy that is super humble, getting on us every single day, bringing energy. He's on your case, too, if you like it or not. And he's going to push you till you're about to snap. And I think that he's a big part of what we do. And, you know, you can ask the guys that some days you're going to hate him, but looking back on it, you can't thank him enough for what he's done for our program.
So you say he come into your life when you were 2 years old. Did he get in your face right away?
Right as I started playing organized basketball, yeah, he's always been the guy to let me know when I mess up, but also love me whenever I'm down and tell me good job when I do good things.
Yeah.
And
So he gives
that
it
kind
to
of
you
stuff.
straight.
Yeah, I mean, there's no
no
fluff or
gray
whatever.
area, no
Yeah,
fluff.
no.
He's just real.
Yep.
And you know, I think that's what people like about him, because like a lot of people, you know, in this world these days, everybody's worried about hurting people's feelings. But I don't think your stepdad is that way.
No, and I think the way he approaches things, you're not going to take it that way. He's going to build you up, but cut you down at the same time. But it's all positive.
He's trying to make it better.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So how did you respond to that early on?
Early on, it was definitely tough. You know, I remember practices where I just wanted to quit basketball, and that I didn't want to be a part of it anymore. But looking back on it, I'm happy that I stuck with it. And
so you seriously thought about not playing?
I mean, some days, yeah, it was definitely a thought, but
Because he was riding you.
yeah, that and stuff wasn't going my way.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
You know how it goes. Just
Yeah. But somehow you stuck with it,
yeah.
and now you're a really hard worker. So where does that come from? I mean, I know you're doing a lot of extra stuff. So where does that come from?
I just love the game. I like being. It's just a place where I can forget about all my thoughts, forget about my feelings and stuff like that, and just get away from everything. But also, like, I know people say you don't want to fear failure, but I really fear failure, and I don't want to fail in life. And I think that this is like my escape. Basketball is.
Well, but in basketball, though, you know, there's times when you're not going to succeed.
Absolutely.
So how do you handle that? in your escape. Now
Yeah.
you have your escape, and you're going to have some successes and failures. How do you deal with the failure that you fear in your escape?
Yeah, so let's say I had a bad game or whatever, I get in the gym right away, and you just forget about that game, you move on, and you just breathe, and you just forget about it all, and just keep moving forward.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest part.
So when I filmed some of your games and put it on the local channel, but your younger brother's up there with me.
Yeah,
He loves basketball.
he loves it. You can't get him out of the gym.
Where do you think he gets that from?
If I had to guess me, but he loves it. He was born in the gym, so he's just grown up with it. And I think,
So he's having some success.
yeah, he's a good player. I mean, he works his tail off. We just got one of those shooting guns in our backyard, so he's out there every single day grinding, and I think he wants to be great as much as I do, and I think that it really shows.
Yeah, yeah. Do you feel some sense of wanting to be a good role model for him?
Yeah, absolutely, because I'm the oldest in my family, and my older cousins didn't play basketball, and I didn't really have like someone close that played basketball, so I really hope that I have an impact on his basketball career.
Yeah, I mean, I was the same way. I mean, I had nobody ahead of me. I was the oldest. I walk into high school basketball, and I'm like, okay, what's this like?
Yeah.
And so all this stuff is new because you didn't watch your older brother do this kind of stuff. So you're kind of blazing your own trail. Now, there was one night where you hit 2 free throws to win the game, and I saw you in the hallway, and I, congratulated you, and I asked you, what were you thinking about when you went to the free throw line? And do you remember what you told me?
I don't, but it's probably along the lines of just making the free throw. And
Well, I just said, I said, were you nervous? And you're like, no. I go, why? He goes, because I knew I was going to make them.
yeah, I think confidence is key, especially in those. We do a program called lucid mental training every single day in practice, and it's just breathing and being, and just like when you're finding your calm in the chaos. And I think that's a big part of. I mean, we played in front of 4,000 fans. I think it's hard to go out there as a high schooler not experiencing that and try to play to the best of your ability. And I really think that lucid helped us with that. And as a shooter, you can't think that it's gonna miss. You have to think that it's gonna go in every single time.
Yeah.
I think it's a big part of.
Do you think the mental training helps you?
Yeah, I think it does, because when I stepped into the free throw line, you look down at your feet, you're right here. You can't control what other people are doing. You take a deep breath, and it's just like you're shooting free throws in practice.
Right.
And you can just kind of escape from
Yeah,
the situation.
you have your muscle memory. You're doing it all the time. It's time to do the same thing. Even though it's a different situation, there's a lot of pressure, you can't let that get to you. You got to go right back to what you know you can do, right? And that's what you did.
Yep.
Yeah. And so that gives you confidence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I said, what else I said to you, I asked you, were you nervous? You're like, no. I knew they were going in. And I said, why? And you said, I put the work in. I put the work in. And that's really what it is.
Yeah.
Do you put the work in? So now let's take it. I mean, this year you became a full-fledged starter. Last year you played some, but this year you played a ton.
Yeah.
Right? So what was that transition like for you?
So last year I was I think I averaged like 8 minutes a game or something like that. Just one of those players who gets in there, gives the starters a rest, do no harm. One of those players, and then come out. And I think that Antonio, Bryce, and Caden leaving 3 starters, there was 3 opportunities. And I just opened gyms. I acted like I knew what I was doing. I acted like I was, I faked it till I made it. And I really think that's why I played so many minutes. It's just because I acted like I was there last year. And I felt the loss against Penn Hills my sophomore year as much as the starters did, because even though you don't play as much, you're still in there working every single day. And I really think it shows.
Yeah.
That.
Yeah. Absolutely. So is there any games that stand out to you besides the Peterson Center? Like, is there any games that stand out to you this year for any reasons?
Yeah, I would say both USC games. beating USC there was we make gold cards at the beginning of the year, and one of my goals was beating USC at USC. It was a sold-out crowd there. We were both hyped up to be really good, and I think they were supposed to, in the papers, they were supposed to be better than us, and we had something to prove. I mean, we grew up playing USC. I've always hated USC. No offense to anyone.
Yeah.
But
it's a rivalry.
Yeah, exactly. And it's nothing personal. It's just how I was raised.
They feel the same way.
Yeah. And then the second game was USC on senior night when they whooped our butt by 25. And I think that's one of the reasons we won the Whitfield title, is because the next day in practice, we actually had off, but we watched film. We watched the whole game together. And then the day after that, it was our best practice of the year, and I knew we had something special.
Yeah, yeah. So that game, you used that kind of a game that you kind of, in as one way, got embarrassed in your home, in front of your home crowd. I'm not used to seeing that at Mount Lebanon. That was very unusual. But I thought to myself, this is going to be either really good or really bad for your team, because you could take this either way. And so, how do you think your team responded to that?
So after the game, it was senior night. Obviously, we felt terrible. The underclassmen felt terrible for the seniors. That's not the way you want to go out on your. Well, it didn't happen to be the last home game, but when they're recognized, that's hard to do, to lose. But Coach David came in and he was like, "You can take this two ways. You guys can either crumble and throw the season away, or you guys can come back stronger than ever and prove the Whitfield wrong." And that's what we did.
So when you're on the court, what makes it something that you're happy with? Meaning, is it about scoring points, or having a good shooting night, or what is it that you walk away saying, I contributed?
I think it's just a drive to win. I hate losing more than I like winning. It's just how it goes. Every day, open gym practice, we're always competing. We're always getting into it with each other. I think it's just the drive to win pushed us to success. Yeah. And we had 4 losses this year, and all 4 hurt the same exact way, and it just sucks. Yeah. I think that's what pushed us through the season.
Yeah. So at the Peterson, that's a night where, some nights we shoot well, some nights we don't shoot well. That was not a night that you shot well.
Yeah.
But what else do you think you did that night that helped contribute to the win?
I felt like down the stretch we needed some stops. I tried to get the guys going, get a stop, just come together. At halftime, we only have 16 more minutes. We just need to get this done, and we can worry about the rest later. I wasn't really worried about knocking down shots because I knew Sean was hitting shots, Jake was hitting shots, and I was just trying to find them the ball. But I was going to take the open shot, but I was more worried about winning rather than my stats, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, that's unselfish. And so the way I looked at it was, you had to handle the ball a lot in that game, and I felt like that team was good that you played.
Yeah.
They had the D1 guard, and they had some size, and they had some shooters, and that team could have won that championship. They could have won that championship, but
for sure.
You guys could not turn the ball over and win. So you had the ball in your hands, and you didn't make turnovers, and you had a lot of chaos around you. You were going into whatever they were playing. They were playing that zone, and you're going into some traffic, which could be a problem, but you didn't make it a problem. You took care of the basketball, and I think that was a really big deal. Outside of the shots, and that's what everybody contributes in a different way. You contributed that night. It wasn't about the shots, although that was a nice little left-handed off the glass, in the drive. That was nice. That probably felt good.
Yeah, it did.
But how did it feel winning that?
I would try to describe it. I think it's undescribable. Anyone who's won a championship, you can ask all of our guys. Like Coach David told us at the beginning of the season that he wishes he could tell you how good a championship feels, and I agree with that. You just can't describe it. There's no better feeling. All those hours we put into the gym, the film sessions, the liftings, it all paid off. And for one night to receive a payment, it feels really, really good.
Yeah, I get it. So now you're going to become a senior, and these guys are going to look up to you. Yeah. So how are you going to approach this year?
Like Jake and Andy said, this group of seniors has taught us how to lead a team the right way, and I think the way they led wasn't like, you need to do this, you need to do this. It was like, hey, as a team, we need to accomplish this. It was more like a we, not a you need to do this. And I think that our job as seniors is to accept the freshmen and underclassmen who didn't have any varsity experience with open arms and try to support them with everything they do.
Yeah, because they can help contribute.
Yeah, exactly.
Some of these guys. Who has been some of the biggest influences for you as to the type of work ethic that you have and competitiveness you have and the success that you've had? You know, who's influenced you?
Obviously, my stepdad's influenced me a lot, but my grandpa played football at John Carroll. He's in the Hall of Fame there, and he passed away in 2012. But he's really impacted my life, and my grandma's still around, and she talks about him all the time, shows me his stuff, and it just drives me to be successful.
Yeah, that's good. I see it. I see it, and I see the work you guys all put in, and I know you put in a lot of work, and you did get some payment down at the Peterson, and that's terrific. And you know, the school doesn't have tons of WPL basketball championships. You know, you go into some of the schools, and you know, whatever sport has all these years of championships. Well, you know, there's not tons of boys championships because it's not easy. It's not easy to do, but you guys did it. You guys did it, and they'll never take that away. And I'm guessing you'd like to do another one.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, you know, I've enjoyed having you here, and I admire your work ethic. You know, I feel like I relate to that, and I just wish you the best of luck.
Thank you. Appreciate
You're welcome. And I want to thank you for watching. Currently, there's over 113,000 people on the organ transplant waiting list. So if you would accept an organ to save your life or your father's or mother's or brothers or sisters, I think we should, if that's a yes, I think we should all be organ donors. And in addition to that, there's living kidney and living liver donors out there, and they're saving thousands of lives. So it's something to consider also. So I hope you enjoyed our show. Thank you for watching. Take care.